my phone down.
Put it down like I
put my
told
phone
you.
down.
Put it down.
I can put it down.
Now.
You're not going to shoot me.
Put it down.
This traffic stop of a black man in New Braunfels last year is the subject of a new racial profiling lawsuit in Texas. The officer said he pulled over the driver because his license plate was dirty. The driver says he was yet another victim of racial profiling. With race and policing under scrutiny, information about every traffic stop must be reported to the state.
Texas law enforcement have to collect and analyze the race and gender of each driver pulled over. So KXAN investigator Jody Barrs analyzed years of racial profiling data.
He's uncovered hundreds of police and sheriff's departments failed to report those details as required by law, and the state has not held them accountable.
209, go ahead.
It's going to be a dirty plate.
1 year ago,
I'm behind them lights and siren.
New Braunfels police officer Caleb Meyer stopped this car after he said he couldn't read the license plate as they drove along I-35. 2 minutes after the red and blue lights turned on, the driver stopped. Clarence Crawford later told the officer he pulled over when it was safe.
Put your hands on the wheel. Put your hands on the wheel. Put your hands on the wheel. Both of them. Put the phone down. What is your problem?
Please don't shoot me, officer. Please don't shoot me.
What is your problem, dude?
Please don't shoot me. Please, please, please.
Stop.
You. You don't
Get
talk
out.
to me like that, bro.
Get out. Get on your face.
Eligible on the class Charles BL.
I'm on the ground.
All the way. Hands in front.
Ground.
2.5 minutes into the encounter,
What the you want me to do?
Stop. Lay out. Face down.
the first of 2 stun gun hits. The officer eventually got Crawford into cuffs and charged him with evading and interfering with public duties. The city says Officer Meyer was retrained after the stop, and then he continued patrolling in New Braunfels.
It was initially viewed as a training issue until he was counseled and provided additional training on traffic stops, use of enforcement.
The city said what happened to Crawford was unacceptable. Months later, the officer resigned. 2 weeks ago, that driver filed a federal civil rights lawsuit alleging he was a victim of excessive force and unreasonable search and seizure, the result of racial profiling. Crawford argued the profiling happened when the officer pulled up alongside him at a stoplight nearly 5 minutes before he followed him down the interstate and stopped him. New Braunfels police and all others in Texas are required by state law to file racial profiling reports each and every year. We discovered the state has no racial profiling data from New Braunfels for any traffic stop in all of 2017. It's not been uncommon across Texas over the years. Why would a law enforcement agency not take the time to do this?
To be honest with you, it is something that is not forgivable.
Dr. Alex Del Carmen is one of the state's leading racial profiling data experts. Just last year, he urged the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement to make sweeping race and gender additions to what law enforcement agencies report annually.
Data is just basically in this case, is just who the police officer stopped in a macro level analysis, meaning, you know, as a police department, how many African Americans were stopped, how many Hispanics were stopped, how many whites were stopped. But in reality, that information is halfway complete.
The state's racial profiling law demands agencies do more than simply collect data. They're also supposed to audit their own numbers to make sure they're reporting accurate data. Then, Texas law requires they perform a comparative analysis of the race, gender, and ethnicity of the people stopped, digging into how those race numbers compare to the population in their area. The reason for that, lawmakers wanted departments to spot racial profiling indicators. Find out why it's happening. Our investigation found the state does not have a single comparative analysis on record from any Texas law enforcement agency in the last 10